Instead, we get Wayne in his underwear doing like the gorilla walk. With his,
so
you
good.
can see like from behind, it just
that behind ball shot.
Yes. They're objectifying poor Mike Myers. They're objectifying his scrotum and his backside.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love when growing up are really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your co-hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me is my hetero life partner and my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The audience selects from 6 movie choices that we then break out our race car VHS tape rewinders and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of the podcast, the two of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. You can find all the information or past episodes at Shat on TV. And finally, for all of those that crave all of our Shat, you can follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel. Just go to shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where you can catch both past and live content each week. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you anything over there at Twitch, but we put some live shows out, and then they are transferred to our YouTube channel. So you can catch all of our content for free. Nothing is behind a firewall because, Big D, we have listeners that continue to support the podcast by commissioning movies they want to hear, which is no different than tonight's episode.
That is true. We've been blessed, and the blessings continue as our listeners submit their tithing. You know, the gods of Shat require a 10% tithing, I believe it is.
Oh my gosh. As long as we don't have the Shat e-meter where we got to sit down and you got to confess all of your Shat sins to us.
No, that would be an interesting add-on episode. But yeah, this week we got one of our old-time listeners. I mean, Steve W. has been with us. I feel like if we went back and tracked Twitter, he'd be one of the first few people on there. So Steve wrote in, and Steve said, you know, I would love it for you guys to do one of the classic SNL skits turned into a movie, the only one to ever make over $100 million and be considered a respectable movie. And the tagline for this wonderful film was, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll hurl, or the optional one world, one party. It is, without a doubt, the 1992 buddy comedy, Wayne's World.
And anytime someone commissions a movie with their hard-earned dollars, we asked them to send in a letter, and Steve wrote in. He said, hello, Shat Crew. So with all of the great movies out there, why pick Wayne's World? Some people might be scratching their head. For me, however, this is a top 5 movie. I just watched it a week or two ago and still laughed all throughout the movie, even when I knew all of the jokes that were coming. This cast does a great job, and I think they got everyone perfect. There are so many quotable lines and parts that it's hard to even name them all, but I'll do a few. Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't even own a gun, yet the need for a gun rack. Alice Cooper and the we won't sell out part where they keep advertising brands, just to name a few. I don't know how someone wouldn't laugh at most of this movie, even 30 years after it came out. The jokes may have gotten better now that I'm older and I'm 37. For me, this movie is between a 0 and a 0.05 wipe movie, but not sure how you guys will rate it. Big D, don't let me down like you did on Spaceballs and Tommy Boy. But I do have some hope as you guys got Dumb and Dumber right with a 0 wipe. Also, it is my birthday on June 12th. So this is a late birthday gift for myself. I picked up the show right when Game of Thrones season 8 was about to start. Then after that was finished, I didn't start the movies till maybe July or August. I don't remember, but I do remember the first episode I gave a shot was Back to the Future, and I didn't look back. I hope you guys enjoy the movie, and I can't wait to hear my late birthday gift that comes from Steve W. in Minnesota.
Well, shit, I'm wrong. I guess Steve's not been with us that long.
Right. Well was season 8?
Yeah, fuck Steve. What's he doing? Seriously, Steve.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I was searching the Shat catalog, so I'm packing as I'm moving from Arizona back to Florida. And I put on like our old Westworld episode, which I think was episode 3, because we were covering the movie because we had launched Shat on TV for the Westworld, thinking that we'll do this little television show because our movies, we need the exposure for our movies podcast. And boy, was that rough. Holy smokes. I mean, we're not good now. We were even worse back then.
Oh, no, but I think also that the Westworld is one of my worst edits ever. It was while I was still learning. It's bad, but you figure, you know, that's why this movie, I think, is so beloved. We are the Wayne's World of podcasts. We're a bunch of guys and gals in a room, don't know what we're doing, but yet somehow people choose to tune in. So this movie is perfect for us.
Well, Wayne's World is a 1992 American comedy film directed by Penelope Spheeris. It's produced by Lorne Michaels and written by Mike Myers and Bonnie and Terry Turner, who were writers on Saturday Night Live. It's based on that Saturday Night Live sketch of the same name, and it stars Myers in his feature film debut as Wayne Campbell and Dana Carvey as Garth Algar, a pair of rock fans who broadcast a public access television show. Wayne's World was released in the United States on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 1992. It was a critical and commercial success, and it was the 8th highest grossing film of 1992 and remains, as you said, Big D, the highest grossing film based on a Saturday Night Live skit. A sequel, Wayne's World 2, was released the following year on December 10th, 1993. Before we dive into the movie and break down the plots and give you our review of it, we always ask the question, where were you? What are your memories of this film? We'll start with you, Big D.
So we're talking 28 years ago. And a lot of these movies, it becomes fuzzy when I saw them first or what was going on. This one is crystal clear. When I graduated high school, this might be a surprise, I lacked the focus on what I wanted to do. I didn't even apply to college out of high school. So after my high school senior year, I went to live in Sweden for about 6-7 months, came back, was working. And in that time, my friends were off in college. So I went to visit my good friend, Vinnie Wallace at SUNY Albany. And this was my first experience with college. So I spent a weekend up there. And during that weekend trip, we went out, we saw Wayne's World. And it was just that whole weekend experience that made me get up off of my ass, come back, realize it was important to go to college. And of course, it wasn't for the right reasons. It was because of the fun I had had being on a college campus and just having a great time. So because of that weekend, I was motivated to get my ass in gear. I went to college 6 months later, whatever it was. So without Wayne's World and that whole combined experience, I would not be where I am today.
Wow. I don't think you and I have been friends now since what, 2004? I think no, 2004, 2003, which is 17 years. If I did the math correctly. Yeah. 17 years. Yeah. I don't think I ever knew that you went to Sweden for like in between your senior year and college. Oh, you're going to have to share some stories. Maybe we'll have to get on Twitch and I'll just have to hear about Big D, the Sweden months.
Yeah, it was really nothing much to say. It was a wasted opportunity. Let's just say. Yes.
Well, I was not of college age yet. I would think I was 12 years old. It was 11 or 12. And it was released before I started going and watching movies in theaters by myself or with friends or with girls. So this was a VHS rental. And I remember everyone loving this movie, and I couldn't wait till it came out as a rental. And when Wayne's World came out on VHS, it set rental records. If you remember, like it was everywhere on our local video store, on our local Blockbuster. And on a deeper level, its fingerprints, as Steven mentioned, can be seen in many of the comedies that would go on to rule the box office of the 1990s, like Tommy Boy. I was obsessed with this movie. It immediately became part of my vernacular. If you remember, right after Wayne's World, everyone was saying Schwing, not all of that stuff. And this was, I think, the inspiration for my 7th grade audition to be like the anchor for the school news. Did you have that?
No.
Where you would have students do the school news on television? No. We had a whole AV club. And so right after this, I was like, I've got to be on the AV club. I've got to be front and center. So I auditioned and I became the lead anchor of Walker Middle School in Orlando, Florida, specifically because of Wayne's World. Shocking. I know.
Wow. You were big time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that being said, Big D, play the trailer.
I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning.
Just outside of Chicago.
Galileo.
In the basement of this house.
It's Wayne's World, party time, action.
Broadcast history is about to be made.
Extreme close-up!
I want you to find out who these guys are and where they do their show.
What is this?
Mr. Vanderhoff, this is your audience.
It's two chimps on a Davenport in a basement.
Here I am with the contract for $5,000.
Excuse me?
Now they're on their way
No way.
Wait.
to fame.
Will you still love me when I'm in my carbohydrate sequin?
Babe heaven.
What do you do if every time you see this one incredible woman, you think you're gonna hurl?
I say hurl. If you blow chunks and she comes back, she's yours. If you spew and she bolts, it was never meant to be.
Okay.
It's Wade.
This is definitely the type of place I'm gonna get when I move out of my parents' house.
It's Garth.
I love you, Brad.
If she were a president, she'd be Abraham Lincoln.
It's a movie.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Wayne's World.
Hi, Wayne.
It just might be the greatest motion picture ever made.
Are you mental?
Wayne's World.
In Aurora, Illinois, rock fans Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar host a public access television show, Wayne's World, from Wayne's parents' basement. After they sell the rights to the show to television producer Benjamin Oliver for $10,000, they celebrate at a nightclub where they avoid Wayne's troubled ex-girlfriend Stacy. Wayne falls for Cassandra Wong, vocalist and bassist of the band performing that night, Crucial Taunt.
So I'll start off by saying happy birthday to Steve.
Happy birthday, Steve.
And Steve, I want to put you at rest. I am not going to treat this movie like Spaceballs or Tommy Boy. This is actually a pleasant surprise of a movie. So you don't have to worry about me going off on this one.
Right. Spoiler alert.
Coming into it, though, I didn't know what to think. You remember the television skit, but I was like, what is the movie based on? I couldn't remember. And right away, they start breaking the fourth wall. And I was surprised that the entire premise of the movie, the cast is talking to us. And that can easily be tedious. You can just get tired of it. It can be cheesy. But they do it in a lot of fun and unexpected ways. One of my favorites is that crazy ass Ed O'Neill from, what was it?
From Married with Children and yes. Modern Family.
Yeah, he plays the manager Glenn at Makita's. So in the beginning, he kind of hijacks the camera with some of his crazy ass monologues, and he just looks at the camera and kind of grabs. He says, "I've never done a crazier thing in my life before that night. Why is it that if a man kills another man in battle, it's called heroic? Yet if I kill another man in the heat of passion, it's called murder?" Wayne's like, "What are you doing, dude? The camera only talks to me." And at the end, they do even a step further that catches me off guard, and I find myself laughing when Wayne's life is going to shit. He says, "What's going on? I've lost my show. I lost my best friend. I lost my girl. Oh, this is shit. Everybody's shitting on me. I don't know." And the camera starts to leave him as breaking the fourth wall. Right. We, the audience, are like, "Wayne, guess what? We're going to make your week even worse." And Wayne comes back and tells us, "Where you going? I'm sorry. Don't worry. It's going to get better. We're going to get better." I find myself being so pleasantly surprised.
Well, I don't remember a movie breaking the fourth wall as much or as successful because, as you said, sometimes it can get tedious when that happens, right? Like you see it interspersed in current movies or shows today where they kind of wink at the camera. But I remembered the fourth wall breaking because, again, like Steve, I could almost recite verbatim this entire movie, but I don't remember them breaking the fourth wall as much as they do.
No, and usually it's one character who can break the fourth wall. So we have that connection, whether it's Tyler Durden or whether it's the narrator talking to us. Here, anybody in the cast can yank the camera away and take us on. And I think that's great because you never know when's it going to be Garth, dropping his pen and going under the table to whisper to us. When's it going to be Glenn? When's it going to be Wayne? When's it going to be anybody? And that's a nice fresh take on it.
Well, it's so crazy because again, you wouldn't expect something like, I think this was kind of revolutionary. When they screened this movie, a producer recalled that at one showing at a theater in Wayne, New Jersey, which I think is kind of funny that they test screened it in Wayne, New Jersey, 98% of the audience rated the film excellent. 98%. And the 2% rated it very good. Wow. Now, this is almost unheard of. At test screenings, Hollywood producers aim for something around 60% excellent and very good combined. really, really, really good movies usually only get 75 to 90%. It was off the charts.
I think it has a lot to do with the relationship between Mike Myers and Dana Carvey. We know that a lot of the lines were improvised and that it was their relationship. So there's a genuine connection between them. But like Tommy Boy or other SNL skits, it seemed like just a longer skit. This seems like they're genuine, flushed out characters. They're normal, everyday people. They're the people down the street. They're us in high school, listening to music, hanging out, doing nothing special, going out and getting the same thing at the diner. So right off the bat, it feels genuine. As ridiculous as the premise is, it seems like characters that we can really fall in love with and embrace.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because Mike and Dana did not like each other. This was one of Mike's characters that he developed growing up and doing improv theater in Canada. So this was based on suburbanite kids in his neighborhood in and around that kind of weren't doing anything with their lives, but were the cool kids. And so he based this character, and this was one of the characters he had fleshed out as almost like a one-man show. And then when he joined SNL, he brought this character with him. Now, at the time, he was virtually unknown. At the time, Dana Carvey was one of the most popular actors on Saturday Night Live. So in order to get Wayne's World on the show, which is very competitive, and Lorne Michaels fosters a competitive relationship at Saturday Night Live, they put on Dana Carvey. But Mike Myers, alongside with Dana Carvey, after Wayne's World 2, they didn't talk up until I think last year's Oscars or maybe a year before that. So it's crazy that, again, because I agree with you, it seems authentic, but behind the scenes, they hated each other.
Oh, I don't even want to hear this. It's gonna ruin my.
I know. I'm sorry to pull back
my
the curtain.
Beautiful. No, I think they're still friends. They loved it. They had a great time, and that's why I like it.
Well, it's great because, like you said, it did inspire me. The line where they said we're just two chimps on a Davenport in a basement. That's what we are. Like at a young age, I would record myself on cassette tapes, pretending to be a DJ duo with my neighbor, who was like a pre Big D. Jason was his name, and he was a little bit older than I am, and he was tall, and he taught me how to play basketball, and he was like my best friend growing up. Like he was my practice Big D. He was my Big D with training wheels. And I went from that to recording myself on home video, making Weird Al tribute videos. So when I saw this movie, I was inspired to say, one day I will pursue my own show that hopefully one day we'll be able to sell it to a smarmy producer. So if anyone's listening to this and you have access to $10,000, I will sell out immediately.
I'm embarrassed to say this, and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but at the end of my high school, and I think the year after, I used to play in a stickball league, really competitive stickball league, the USSBL in New York. So they had aluminum stickball bats. You would take the low felt tennis balls and burn them with a torch. So dudes were throwing mid-90s. It was nasty. Wow. And I remember that the commissioner of this USSBL said, I have a connection at the local public access show. I'm going to do a sports special about the USSBL, and we want you to come on it. And they rolled highlights. They talked about the league and like an upcoming team breakdown. Right. A scouting report of everybody. And at the time, now I'm so embarrassed. I'm like turning red thinking about it. I remember telling my friends, like, yeah, I'm going to be on TV. Just wait, I'm going to be on TV.
Well, it's funny because this has inspired, I think, an entire generation. Think of everything that we're doing now with Twitch, with YouTube, with content creation being very niched and localized, removing even a barrier of public access and asking if you can get time there. This is what it's become. So yeah, in a way we are like Wayne's World, but I think unlike Wayne's World, I don't know if we've inspired anything yet. I don't think that we've brought like
nothing positive
to the world. No, like Queen. I remember this movie single-handedly brought back Queen. I knew nothing of Queen before this movie. Right afterwards, I went to my local FWE and music stores, Virgin. By the way, for kids, FWE, there used to be music stores where you could go and you could buy discs. But I remember buying this album, and I remember buying The Best of Queen. Not only is The Best of Queen an album that should be in everyone's, iPad or iPhone or whatever, but this movie soundtrack, the rest of the album is amazing. Myers threatened to quit production of this movie if Bohemian Rhapsody was swapped out for another song. They actually wanted that scene where the headbanging is going on. The original producers wanted a Guns N' Roses song, and he fought for Queen to be in this.
No, and this, without a doubt, you said it introduced you to Queen. It did the same thing for me. I was a new wave fan in high school, so I was listening to all the bullshit British, the Smiths,
right.
Cure, Depeche Mode, all that stuff. So this was my open door into some more classic rock. And Bohemian Rhapsody, it was released 17 years before this movie. And that sing-along, everyone has done that. How many times have you come back from a bar Right. And that shit either comes on the radio, you put it on, and the whole car immediately starts going with it. After it was on the soundtrack of this movie, it went to number 2 on the Billboard's 100 chart.
It's crazy.
And what I love is that the characters in the car, they don't know all the lyrics either. So there's times when they're like, you can see them either stop trying to mouth the words or they don't know or they're singing along. And it also breaks up. Like they're playing the beginning of the song and they stop to pick up their buddy. They get back in the car. It is so genuine. And I think this has inspired probably thousands of in-car karaokes.
Well, not only that, I think they were making fun of the length of the song, right? Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen fought for it to be on radio. At the time, the radio wouldn't play a song like that. It was, you got to get 3-minute songs so we can churn and burn for advertising. And I watched a documentary, it's on Netflix right now, about Queen and Adam Lambert and how this movie really was one of the resurgences of Queen. They actually screened this movie before Freddie Mercury passed away. Unfortunately, in 1991, he got an early screening. He gave his stamp of approval. But you talked about how there are some of the characters that are in it's an AMC Pacer. It's not a Gremlin. Some of the characters there don't seem to be mouthing the words. Well, Dana Carvey had never heard Bohemian Rhapsody. He didn't know the lyrics. But Penelope Spheeris shot that scene for 5 hours. 5 hours that scene was shot. So they're having to listen to the song over and over and over again. And I don't care how great of Bohemian Rhapsody is. When you're trying to film a scene, you're listening to those lyrics over and over again and you're headbanging. He said Mike Myers' face looks like he's wincing is because he had been doing that for the last, for what's 60 times 5? What is that? 540 minutes?
So this goes right up there with the Stanley Kubrick, what he did to poor Shelley Long in The Shining.
That's right.
They just made the guy to break down. So at the end, when the guy in the middle is like, let me go, he's actually meaning to let him go. But it shines a spotlight that this is quintessential 92. This is the 90s. And there's such an innocent to things that are going on. When they go into the gasworks, when they're going to go, have a couple of drinks and listen to the band. And Garth, who's trying to cut through the crowd, he gets thrown back and he's angry. Mm-hmm. And you think about Garth as a character. He's a recluse. He doesn't speak much. He is the type of kid who would go and shoot up a school. Garth goes out to the car.
Terrible.
Listen, he goes out to the car. What does he do? And he arms up with some industrial strength taser. He comes back in the club, taunts the same guy, then hits him with this however many 1,000 watts of this giant, electric industrial taser. The guy shoots on the floor and the crowd's like, yeah. Today, if an angry recluse, a kid at school from the fringe of society, got angry, went out to his car to get something and come back, he's hopefully getting arrested at the door.
No, everyone loves Garth. They love Wayne. They recognize them. They're local celebrities. They get to skip the line. Meatloaf lets him right in, so no one's gonna arrest Garth. They love Garth.
No, today they'd arrest him because they would think he was coming in with an AK.
Stop it. Well, like you said, this was a much more innocent time. This movie truly is a time capsule of the 1990s. You had references to the Chia Pet, the Clapper, Empire Carpet, Grey Poupon, arcade owners. Did you have one of those CDs? Before there were tape players, we had to get the portable CD player and then get the tape connection.
Yeah, of course.
And it would skip. Remember when skip protection came out? Oh, that was that was crazy. Not.
But you're talking about these commercials. I found myself nostalgic for all this shit, for all these tchotchkes. Television commercials in the 90s were the equivalent of walking through a thrift store. It was all garbage that you just did not need. And before streaming came in, you used to watch these commercials. Now, I don't think I've watched a commercial in probably 6 months. The last time I watched them, I was at my brother-in-law's house. I think I was watching probably the Super Bowl or something around there.
Super Bowl.
I felt like every commercial was brand new. I was like, wow, look at I've never seen these before. So it made me nostalgic for the time when you had to watch really bad commercials because they were almost as entertaining as what you saw on the screen.
Well, Benjamin attempts to steal Cassandra from Wayne by using his wealth and good looks. He distracts Wayne and Garth with all access tickets to an Alice Cooper concert in Milwaukee while offering to produce a music video for Crucial Taunt. At the concert, Wayne and Garth make the acquaintance of a bodyguard to producer Frankie Sharp, head of Sharp Records.
So it's easily been 15, 20 years, minimum, since the last time I saw this. But yet I felt like I was at a public showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Every line, I'm like, here it comes, here it comes. It will be mine. Oh, yes, it will be mine. Or I'm in Delaware. I'm in Delaware. This movie is filled with quotes. As Sphincter says, what? If Benjamin were an ice cream flavor, it'd be pralines and dick. I don't even own a gun, like you said, or let alone the amount of guns needed to necessitate an entire rack. Or the bass player's a babe. She kind of makes me feel funny, like I'm climbing the rope in gym class. Or playing hockey in the street with your friends and a car comes, game on, game on.
Oh.
All these lines I knew were coming, and they still hit me as funny as the first time.
I still use these. I still use these to this day. When I walk into a friend or someone that I've just met for the first time and they've got a really nice place, I always use the line, I'm totally going to get a place like this when I move out of my parents' basement. I like there's the game on. I still use the game on. When we were playing, when I was in Florida, we would have wiffle ball games.
Yes,
and we use the game on.
Game on.
But yeah, the gun rack line I use all the time still to this day. So this movie, again, has become such a part of my life that you said. I wonder if there is something like, there has to be a Rocky Horror Picture Show like setting for Wayne's World. And if not, maybe this is something that we can do. We could call it Wayne Palooza like they did in the sequel. But as a kid, I thought, because I kind of identified with Garth, I was kind of, I was an only child. I wasn't really popular. And I thought maybe Garth was a little like slow, perhaps. But I realized as I've gotten older, he was just really, really, really shy. And I looked into this. The character of Garth is actually based on Dana Carvey's real life older brother, who was extremely shy, but also enormously talented from a technical perspective. When it came to fixing things, he tells the story of how he once fixed his parents' or the family's washing machine with just a butter knife. And was just like, okay, thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, so when he says, thanks, that's him imitating his older brother, which I happen to think is very endearing. He also, I think, helped create like technical equipment that revolutionized video editing, though I could be just misremembering, but I know he did something extremely technical with his life and made good, which I think is totally awesome.
Yeah, I think you need him being that quiet introvert to play opposed to Wayne. If you had both of them, it would be Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It would be two idiots, screaming like, excellent, or not. Right. You need the fact that we're seeing the moments. And as the audience, we get to communicate with Garth through the fourth wall. Mm-hmm. And we see how insecure and how sensitive he is. And we see his visions when he sees the woman behind the counter that he's infatuated with. And he's trying to run through the scenarios in his head. And it's endearing. It's cute. I don't think I ever thought he was slow. I just thought he was...
Well, you thought he was a school shooter. He's not a school shooter.
No, I think I'm saying that people would have thought he was a school shooter.
Okay, I see.
I don't think Garth is a school shooter. If somebody leaves a bar angry to their car to get anything and then storms back in for revenge, yes, you're going to be worried. But Garth really makes the movie for me. When he's left alone on set after Wayne storms off, and he's just like, so I don't feel so good. It's great.
When they cut to the booth and they're again, so many references. They're like, did you ever see that scene in Scanners right before the guy's head explodes? And it's just Garth, the close up of Garth and his head is shaking.
And I'm half thinking, is his head going to explode? Right. And I wouldn't have been that surprised because the movie keeps getting you in ways that are smart And I don't want people to think, oh, this is not an Academy Award winning film. This is not like the best writing ever, but it is surprising me for what I expect. When we go to see the Alice Cooper concert, and holy shit, I could do a 10-minute discussion about what the Alice Cooper lyrics are and what the people in the audience of Alice Cooper were. But when Wayne asked him, he says, so do you come to Milwaukee often? And we're expecting Alice Cooper to be either this meathead 90s rocker, and he's going to come out with something like, no, what are you, stupid? I don't come to Milwaukee. But he breaks into this whole thing about how the name Milwaukee actually, was shared by the French missionaries and explorers that came there in the 1600s and the Native Americans. Oh, it's actually one of the drummer, I think, says something like, well, Pete, is that true? And he's like, yes, in fact, Milwaukee is an Indian name. And then Alice Cooper's like, yep, Pete, it's actually pronounced Milwaukee. Yes.
Which is Algonquin for the good land.
Yes. It's in a scene that ends with them bowing down. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Without this little unexpected laugh before, I just would have been rolling my eyes and thinking this was Tommy Boy with Chris Farley running into the glass for the fourth time.
Well, this movie is I don't know how else to say this, but it knows what it is, and it's extremely intelligent for what it is. When Mike Myers movies are successful, there's a wink and a nod to the audience. He's in on the joke with you, but you're enjoying the ride because it's executed flawlessly. I guess the only thing that caught me off guard through the nostalgia glasses is, again, more than ever now, we have entered into a world where we have to be very careful, or we've evolved from prior jokes. And for the most part, unlike other movies in the 90s, Wayne's World doesn't use stereotypes. The only thing that I question, and I've got to ask you about it, is the Cantonese scene insensitive when he sees cream of some young guy, or is he actually saying Cantonese when they're talking, and then it's really short, and then the subtitles go for 2 minutes?
No, I think you're mixing up two scenes. Okay, so I'll start. The cream of some young guy is when they're ordering Chinese food in the lair later. But what I think is funny is that I don't find it offensive because it's not done in a way that mocks her heritage or the language. I respect it because he's caring enough about Cassandra that he takes the time to try to learn Cantonese to show her that he cares more than the other idiots that are around her, the guys who are just hitting on her because she's hot. So he makes the effort and she's blown away by it. So I did not take it as offensive. And yes, the cream of some young guy, we should almost have like an SJW, like some kind of like a alert where we say, okay, SJWs would freak out about this. Yes, cream of some young guy, they'd freak out. I think some social justice warriors would freak out about the way that Stacy, the ex-girlfriend, is talked about and treated, that she's this, I think they even call her like a crazy bitch and they put her down, or the way that
they say she's mental. Are you mental? We broke up.
But I think they call her like a hoser or like a hose or there's some term that I was like, SJW alert. And I think SJWs would also complain about the way that Cassandra's portrayed, the outfits they put her in. But none of it bothered me, not to be surprised, because everybody seemed in on the joke. And at the time, it didn't seem like it was malicious. Not that makes it right today, but fuck, this movie was made in 1992.
Well, I don't think they over-sexualize Cassandra to the point to where it's uncomfortable. I mean, Tia Carrere is beautiful. Also, she did all the actual singing for the songs that she's up. That's actually her singing. And she's an empowered woman. Like when Wayne is trying to hit on her and he says a line that doesn't hit or register, she's like, yeah, okay. And the same thing, she's not falling for Benjamin's shit either. And she takes care of herself in the bar. She doesn't need a man. She can fucking take care of herself. And he's like, whoa, and that's where he does the line. Everyone Kung Fu fighting, right? And he's like, ugh. So I think she is like that empowered woman. I love it.
Yeah, but we don't even get an underwear shot. Instead, we get Wayne in his underwear doing like the gorilla walk. With his, so you can see like from behind. It just
that behind ball shot.
Yes. They're objectifying poor Mike Myers. They're objectifying his scrotum and his backside.
When it comes to Stacy, I mean, this movie is almost like a live action cartoon, right? And even when they're having the Cantonese scene between Wayne and Cassandra gives her a compliment. And Wayne even admits, like, it's partly due to me. I'm to blame for some of her actions. So again, even if there were some SJW 2020 red alerts, I think this is a movie that you would have to give a pass for, personally.
Yeah.
But while filming the revamped Wayne's World under Benjamin's oversight, Wayne and Garth find it difficult to adjust to the professional studio environment. Their contract obliges them to give promotional interview to their sponsor, Noah Vanderhoff, who owns a franchise of amusement arcades. After Wayne publicly ridicules Vanderhoff, he is fired from the show, causing a rift in his friendship with Garth. Jealous of the attention Benjamin is giving to Cassandra, Wayne attempts to prevent her from participating in the crucial taunt music video shoot. She breaks up with him, furious at his lack of trust.
One of the other famous things that this movie is known for is some of the product placement that they did. And it was an actual turning point in the way that films chose to use products as a funding source for movies. So there are two different types of product placement. There's organic. And this is where something makes sense in the scene. It's a family eating dinner and they just have some Coke cans or some sodas around. You will actually get a company to sponsor you that way. It's something that organically happens naturally. Then there's also inorganic product placement. And this is where you start to revolve the plot around a product placement that doesn't make any sense. So the family might not need a TV, but they're like, I really need a Sony 4K TV. Oh, let's go to the store.
Or it shows the main character picking up the Sony remote and turning on the Sony television.
Correct. And if you go back and you think about the 80s was some of the biggest and most profitable organic product placement. You had E.T. with Reese's Pieces. Mm-hmm. You had in Top Gun with the Ray-Ban aviator glasses.
Right.
In Back to the Future 2, you had the Pepsi, Mattel, you had the Nike shoes. These were all products that took off because they made sense within the movie. In the 90s, it became so obvious that people started to question it and identify it. So Wayne's World this is the organic stuff that they stuck in there. They had Fender, Reebok, Duracell, Coke, GMC, Pepsi, Washburn, Chia Pet, White Castle, Levi, Jack Daniels, Yamaha, Grey Poupon, Avion, Guess, AMC, Converse, Crate, Sherwood, Budweiser, Ralph Lauren, Sony, Newprint, Doritos, Lincoln, and Nike. And it became such a joke that they said, why don't we push it that next level? Because the audience is starting to notice it. So they started to put in that scene where you get Wayne and Garth talking about selling out. Oh, we're never going to do that. And they have, Garth sitting back with the Reebok hat, the headband, the jersey, the shoes. You have Wayne talking about choices. Yes, like Pepsi, the choice of the next generation. The Pizza Hut, those were so great because they were making fun of it, but yet the movie was still doing it. And it was the audience's way of being like, oh, holy shit, how did we not see all this before?
Even when it gets to the concert and they get stuck outside and they're introduced to the bouncer or the bodyguard, which is played by Chris Farley. How dare you? Farley. This is Chris Farley's first film that he was in. It's a very small part.
Wow.
But he was extremely nervous when he was on set because he had never been in a movie before. And you can kind of tell he has that nervous energy, but it's classic Chris Farley. In every movie, there's a guy that explains, and even Wayne winks and nods and he says, oh, it was really convenient that that bodyguard was there. Again, it's making fun of the way movies are made, how they get their money, and then also just how in scripts you need someone to tell you that later on, this is going to be a major plot point. So again, even at the end of the movie, Wayne says, as the credits are rolling, we hope you thought that this was smarter of a movie than maybe what you came in assuming it was going to be. Well, Wayne and Garth reunite and hatch a plan to win Cassandra back by having Sharp hear crucial taunt play. While Garth and their friends infiltrate a satellite station with the aid of Benjamin's assistant, Wayne goes to Cassandra's video shoot but embarrasses himself in an attempt to expose Benjamin's ulterior motive. As he leaves, Cassandra changes her mind about Benjamin, Wayne apologizes, and they return to Aurora.
But for all you kids out there, anyone I think under the age of 30 maybe, in the 80s and 90s, MTV was a powerhouse. It was the deciding factor on whether or not someone had a career. You had MTV running actual videos and music news.
It was called music television.
I mean, you listen to the soundtrack here, there's an Ugly Kid Joe song. There's no way Ugly Kid Joe would have been popular without their Ugly Kid Joe video. And in the 80s, all the videos, I didn't realize how ridiculous the premises are. So when they have them up there and they're, you have Cassandra, they're all wearing fur. They look like they're in some, early Earth time period, like a Garden of Eden with waterfalls. And she's got a snake. And the production of this video, it is 80s and 90s. And I never found myself questioning like a White Snake video. Why is she on the hood of a Jaguar going down the highway, writhing around? Why is any of this happening? It just, you had to do what it was with that time. If you wanted to be big and if you want to be respected as a musical artist, you did these crazy things.
Like, I get that probably rich people in the 90s are probably still rich to this day and probably even more rich than what they were. But can you imagine if you were rich in the 90s and then you lost all your money and you only had the technology at that time? Because the whole get up is they're gonna hack satellites and send the signal to Sharp's limo, and then you look at the television screen and it's like 4 inches long, and you know what I mean? Like, how terrible. Can you imagine what the technology? Because we all have. I'm selling my stuff currently right now as I'm making the move. I have a 42-inch plasma television, really nice Samsung. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. The most I can get for that is like $100. I saw televisions, 70-inch televisions on Craigslist. Nothing wrong with them for $300. How crazy is that?
See, but Roger, you're looking at the wrong thing. It's not the price of the technology. It's what technology could do. Right. I was blown away by my first Atari. I was blown away by a Game Boy. Holy shit, I can change the cartridges. It can run on batteries. In the 80s and 90s, the little technological jumps were huge as far as cost. So yes, a satellite dish on a limo, that would have been the equivalent right now of you just probably spending $200,000-$300,000 on something.
Right. Yeah.
My uncle was the first human being I'd ever seen with a cell phone that had one of those, like the carrying cases the cord attached to it. Mm-hmm. When he used that thing in public, people stopped and looked at him like he was from another planet.
Right.
People could not believe. So technology, you think today, it's nothing for me to be like, oh, I'm going to go use the Nest and I'm going to set my thermostat. Oh, I might as well go ahead and program my sprinklers. And let me check my webcams. Let's DVR all my shows. Let's go. That now, it's nothing special. But in the 80s, any kind of special thing that you had, nobody could even dream of or think that it existed. A microwave, the first time I saw it, blew my mind.
I know, but just again, think about it. Like, if I was rich back in the 90s and I was able to afford a limo with a satellite dish, but the technology was only like, it cost me $20,000 for a 4-inch. And then today I can get a 70-inch television for like $200. I'd be pissed. I'd be really upset.
Yeah, but nobody today is going to be like, holy shit, that guy has a 70-inch TV. But back in the day, Mr. Big, holy shit, he's got a satellite dish. People are going to get in the back there and do whatever the hell Mr. Big wants.
Well, the Wayne's World crew hacks into Sharp's satellite television in his limo and broadcasts the crucial taunt performance from Wayne's basement where Sharp and Benjamin converge. Sharp declines to offer Crucial Taunt a record contract. Cassandra breaks up with Wayne and departs with Benjamin for a tropical resort, while Stacy reveals that she is pregnant with Wayne's child and a fire destroys Wayne's house. Gone with the Wind style, dissatisfied, though, Wayne and Garth turn to the film's audience, break the fourth wall yet again, and halt proceedings. They restart the scene and unmask Benjamin as Old Man Withers in a Scooby-Doo parody inning, but still unsatisfied, they start again with a mega happy ending in which Cassandra signs a record contract and reunites with Wayne. Garth begins a relationship with the dream waitress, and Benjamin learns that money and good looks will take you far, almost to the top, but they do not necessarily bring happiness. End movie.
So as we get towards the end of the movie now, I know it's going to wrap up. I know what's going to happen. They're going to get Mr. Big to the house. But I did not remember these endings. We have the mega happy ending, the sad ending, and the Scooby-Doo ending. So when we get that first sad one, where it's like, I really like what I'm hearing here, but I'm just not looking to sign you right now. I was like, holy shit, I don't remember this. And then it quickly goes to the fade. We see the next one. And this is the first movie I can remember that did multiple endings, because it was a cute way to get the movie kind of wrapped up. Because in the end, it's not really important what happens to them. You know that Wayne and Garth are going to be happy. You know that Cassandra and Wayne are going to be together. You know she's going to get a contract. So having these multiple endings, I thought was a really cool way to make everybody go out of the theater happy.
I love in your elder age, as you continue to get older, your brain starts to fizzle a little bit. You keep calling him Mr. Big. I think you're getting him mixed with Sex and the City and Wayne's World. It's Frankie Sharp of Sharp Records, not Mr. Big.
They call him something. Yeah, they call him Mr.
They call him Frankie Sharp of Sharp Records. He's not Mr. Big. You're thinking of Carrie when she's dating Mr. Big in Sex and the City. He also has a limo.
No. Again, you're showing your age. If anything, I'm talking about the band Mr. Big.
You could be talking about that. Which was they also have a limo?
They probably did. They were like an 80s like big hair band as well. But I think it was Mr. Big. I really think it was.
Well, it's funny also because you're also talking about how you enjoyed the multiple endings. And when we reviewed Clue, you were like, oh,
yes, fuck you. It is Frankie. It is Frankie, Mr. Big Sharps. Yes.
But they don't call him Mr. Big.
Yes, they do. How do you think I knew it? I didn't make this up. Somebody calls him Mr. Big.
I don't believe you. They call him Frankie Sharp of Sharp Records. Anyway, you hated the multiple endings of Clue, but now you like the multiple endings?
They were giving us all the different outcomes. The other one, it was just done to show how smart they were and how all the puzzle pieces fit together. And also their endings were like 6 minutes apiece. This is a quick 30 seconds. Here's the happy. Here's the Scooby-Doo. Here's the unmasking. With Clue, it was like, okay, we get it. We're redoing the exact same scenes. We're seeing all the murders play out. It was redundant. We didn't need it.
Run, Raggy. Well, I said that this movie, we've talked about how great lengths Dana Carvey and Mike Myers, how brilliant they are. Yes, it was based on a script by Mike Myers, but the one person that ensured that this movie was a success and is the unsung hero is Penelope Spheeris. Over the past nearly 3 decades, countless stories have circulated about the tension that Penelope Spheeris and Myers had during the making of Wayne's World. She's quoted as saying, I always had to shoot the movie a few different ways. I shot it Mike's way. I shot it Dana's way. I shot it my way. Sometimes I shot it the Bonnie, Terry, and Lauren's way. But I knew that when I got into the editing room, I could put it together the way that I wanted, and that's what I did. Now, Penelope Spheeris is popularized, and she got her big break. She is more of an independent punk rock documentarian. So Paramount at the time didn't expect this movie to be a hit. Obviously, there were no other hits from Saturday Night Live, so they only gave them $14 million. And because it was such a small budget, they let her have total creative control and not micromanage the production. So she's quoted as saying, this little piece of shit they didn't care about, it didn't bug us. She's the reason that this movie is such a success. Mike Myers hated Penelope Spheeris' edit for so long that she wasn't asked back to do Wayne's World 2, which I don't think is as good of a movie. Some people say Wayne's World 2 is better. I think it's that Grease 2 crowd again. You know, they're saying, hey, 20 years later, mainstream audiences love Wayne's World, but really Wayne's World 2 is best. I disagree. I think Wayne's World 2 is a good sequel, but it's missing that Penelope Spheeris magic. And I like Mike Myers, but the more I hear about him, he's kind of a dick a little bit. You know what I mean? He's kind of a jerk, especially to someone who made such a magical movie. So especially during a time in the early 90s when there weren't a lot of female directors. Again, I don't think she gets the credit that she deserves.
If we're only going to enjoy movies with people who are good guys or good girls, we're going to watch almost new movies because everybody's a fucking asshole.
Dana Carvey isn't. Dana Carvey is not an asshole.
Bill Murray's an asshole.
Oh, yeah, of course. But you know what you're getting with Bill Murray. You know what I mean?
Just listen, go into everything expecting the celebrity to be the biggest douche ever.
Okay.
And if they come back somewhat a decent human being, then you can be like, oh, wow. Yeah. What a surprise.
But did you know that? Did you know that Penelope Spheeris and Mike Myers had that falling out?
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, Mike Myers didn't have a hard time jumping into the Chris Farley chair at Shrek, even though they had recorded 90% of the dialogue.
Right.
So I didn't delve too deep into Mike Myers' history because I know I would somehow be disappointed.
Yeah, well, if we ever get the chance to do Wayne's World 2, there's an entire backstory of how Paramount was going to sue the shit out of Mike Myers for the script that he had turned in, and then they had to completely rewrite it in 6 weeks. So it was a completely different movie. But anyway, that brings us to the conclusion of the podcast, where we break out our Shat meters and give you our wipe scores. If you've never listened to the podcast before, a 0 wipe movie is absolutely flawless. It's perfect. There's no wipes involved, just a couple squirts with the bidet. The 5 wipe movie is absolutely terrible. It's horrible. It's something that you don't want in your life. So we'll start with you, Big D. How many wipes do you give Wayne's World?
Ooh, this is a hard one. I got to question whether or not I think this movie deserves it. But let me say this. The movie is fun. There's a good spirit to it. I think it is well written. It constantly surprised me, as much as a movie as ridiculous as this is. I like the way they used the breaking of the fourth wall and the characters. I think what I didn't like about, let's just say, Tommy Boy, is that Tommy Boy are these two ridiculous characters going around in a normal world. So when Tommy goes to sell Callahan parts to one of the distributors, it's a normal guy who reacts to them in normal ways. In Wayne's World, everyone is in on the joke. Right. No one is real. You get Glenn, who's a crazy bastard. You get the cop, who's a crazy bastard. Yeah. They're all in on it. They're all part of the joke. So there's a more genuine, levity to everything. The only misbeat, I think, in this entire movie that I was kind of like, oh, why'd they do that? That wasn't funny, was when they opened the supply door at Makita's. And inside, there's a bunch of commandos training.
Are you kidding me? That's one of my favorite gags.
To me, I was just like, it didn't feel like it fit. It felt kind of forced, but everything else to me was really great. It was 90s nostalgia, the music, the style, the guitar. It was everything. And again, maybe it was my experience of what I liked growing up, but it seemed really, really near and dear to my heart. And I feel horrible for doing it, but I think it is a half-white movie.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. It's not perfect. I almost got to give a 0 wipe only for movies that are truly exceptional and either do something that's unique or perfect. Turning a 2-minute skit into a full-length feature and having it be enjoyable and to resonate now 28 years later, I think it's a miracle. So I think a half a wipe, I don't feel bad doing or saying. So yeah, I'm going to go half wipe.
All right. I agree with you on almost every part except for the opening of the door. I thought it's so unexpected. And that's the theme that I kept bringing myself back to, even though I know, like Steve, who commissioned this movie, I know almost every single beat like he does. I could almost recite every gag. I watched this movie over and over and over again. And I don't want to go all Ashley Schlafly Grease 2 on this, but I really tried to look objectively and think to myself, is this a good movie? Is this groundbreaking? Put it through the Big D lens. Did it do something different? Yes, it inspired an entire genre of these movies. It took a 4-minute skit on SNL and actually made it a good movie. And it has a deeper layer like Shrek. If you peel back the onions, this movie, it's, I think, a blessing of cinema. And while kids today may not get a lot of the references, I saw the execution, and the execution is what makes this movie timeless. Not the fact that, Rob Lowe's pants have 16 pleats on them. So for me, I think this movie deserves a 0 white movie. I think it's as good as Dumb and Dumber. If not, I mean, it's a different type of humor, and I think it's a smarter brand of humor than Dumb and Dumber, even though Dumb and Dumber is a smart movie, just packaged dumb. This movie is fantastic. And I was so overjoyed to record. Thank you, Steve, for commissioning this movie. 0 wipes from Roger Roper. So if we were to add up our scores and divide by 2, that gives you what, Big D?
Okay, so Roger, with a half wipe from me, 0 wipe from you, that comes out to an average of 0.25 wipes. And I don't feel good about this. I feel dirty.
You feel dirty?
Late. It's too late. It's in that range. You know what? It is now in the 5. Oh, God. Oh, there's nothing I can do with it now. I mean, God, this is not up there. This is not the 5th rated movie.
Yeah, it is. This movie is great.
It's not, dude. This isn't the 5th rated.
This is a 0 white movie.
This isn't better than T2.
This is better than Terminator 2.
This movie
has a Terminator 2 reference in it.
Is this better than Cable Guy?
Yes, it's better than Cable Guy.
Is this better than Saving Private Ryan?
Saving Private Ryan, I think, what did I get?
You gave that a half wipe.
I gave it a half wipe. I think it probably, the only reason I gave it half a wipe is because I thought it was just over dramatic. Like, it's not as good as Band of Brothers, and Band of Brothers, I think, is 0. I could probably, if we really wanted to retrocon Saving Private Ryan, I could give it a quarter wipe.
Retcon? Retrocon? Did you make
Retrocon, whatever you want to call it. But no, I do believe that this movie is better than Cable Guy. 100%.
Okay. Well, I can't change my score now just to kind of force it into a position. But this now ties it in the 5 spot with Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
It is worse than our perfect movies, which were Pulp Fiction, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future, and Dumb and Dumber. And it is slightly better than our next batch, which was Cable Guy, The Big Lebowski, and Terminator 2.
Yeah, this is, I think in Wayne's World 2, they have a Jurassic Park reference as well. And in this one, they have the T2 reference, which, by the way, was changed from the original script because they had one of the producer's sons was on set, and they changed it to, "Have you seen this boy?" And that's actually the picture of the producer's son, which I thought is clever. So anyway, what movie are we doing next week, Big D?
So next week, we're doing a movie that tells the tale of shallow, rich, and socially successful Cher, who's at the top of the Beverly Hills high school pecking scale. She sees herself as matchmaker. Cher first coaxes 2 teachers into dating each other. Emboldened by her success, she decides to give hopeless klutz Ty a makeover. When Ty becomes more popular than she is, Cher realizes that her disapproving ex-stepbrother was right about how misguided she was and falls for him. Commissioned by Sarah L., it came out in 1995 and had a box office receipts in the U.S. of $56 million. So it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this one. So, all right. That does it. So thank you, Big D. Thank you, Steve W., for commissioning Wayne's World. That concludes this week's episode of Chat the Movies. If you have a disagreement or you agree with us or you have a story you want to submit, just send in your thoughts to our email address, hosts@chatthemovies.com. Put Dropbox in the title, or you can send in a voicemail, 914-719-SHAT, 914-719-SHAT, and give us your thoughts on this movie or any of the movies we've done here in the Pantheon of Chat. You can also follow us on social media. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just follow the handle @ChatTheMovies. That's the best way to follow us and keep up to date with all the happenings. You can support the podcast multiple ways. Just go to our website, chatthemovies.com. You can find our links under the support tab. You can shop our Amazon affiliate link. You can complete a free anonymous survey so we can sell it to advertisers like Wayne and Garth did. You can buy our merchandise, or you can commission your very own review. We are into 2021, I think, with our reviews right now. So get it on the books. If you have a special date, you can also include that. You can find all the information on the website, again, chatthemovies.com. Also, be sure to check out our sister podcast, Chat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. I think Gene is going to do...
It's a secret. I don't know if they've released it yet.
Oh, is it? All right. Well, I think they're going to do one for the summer, so I'll let them... be sure to find all the information and follow at chatontv.com. You can also check us out on Twitch. As I mentioned, our Twitch channel is linked on our website. Just go to chatthemovies.com/Twitch. So be sure to subscribe to our Twitch channel so you get all of our notifications. But every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, is Florida Man. Squad Goals is 9:30 Eastern, and Shappy Hour is 9 o'clock on Friday. So check out our Twitch channels. Any past episodes are for free on YouTube. And again, you can use your Amazon Prime account for free to subscribe. That does it for Wayne's World. Again, thank you so much for listening. Take care. Good night. Wear a mask, and good luck.
So, okay. Like right now, for example, the Haitians need to come to America. But some people are all, what about the strain on our resources? And it's like, when I had this garden party for my father's birthday, right? People came that did not RSVP. So I was totally bugging. I had to haul ass to the kitchen, squish in extra place settings, and people were on mismatched chairs and all. But by the end of the day, it was the more the merrier. And so if the government could just get to the kitchen, rearrange some things, we could certainly party with the Haitians.
Wow. You guys talk like grown-ups.
Oh, well, this is a really good school.
Mr. Hall was way harsh. He gave me a C-.
Well, he gave me a C, which drags down my entire average.
Hello? There was a stop sign?
I totally paused. You try driving in platforms.
Oh, should I write them a note? Ew, get off of me. As if. Cher's got attitude about high school boys.
It's a personal choice every woman has got to make for themselves.
Cher's saving herself for Luke Perry.
Cher, you're a virgin?
I mean, I'm not prude. I'm just highly selective. I mean, you see how picky I am about my shoes, and they only go on my feet.
Nice stems.
Thanks.
What the hell is that?
A dress.
Says who?
Calvin Klein.
What are you doing? Yo, you're getting on the freeway! Get out of the freeway!
You go, girl.
I'm gonna be a supermodel.